Well, the Suns are going to make this interesting, clearly. Going into the series, I said I did not think that they could slow down LeBron and AD. And I do think LeBron could have had a little more aggressiveness today, but they definitely slowed down AD, man. Anthony Davis had a horrible game. And settling for jump shots, sure, he had 1 3. He had a couple of turnarounds and face up jumpers on DeAndre Ayton. But there was also times when they just defended him really well. I mean, there was one where he got underneath the basket and went for a reverse layup, and there was like a crowd of Suns players around him. There was one play I remember where LeBron and AD ran a pick and roll at Ayton, and Ayton backed up, and AD went for a floater, and that didn't go through. They just dared AD to make shots. They didn't put him on the line that much. And you got to give a lot of credit to DeAndre Ayton, man. And I do think moving forward, the Lakers should experiment more with going at Ayton with AD in the pick and roll. Now, to really do that, you might need to go to AD at center, and there's a conversation about the spacing for the Lakers and all that. But, some of it is AD just simply needs to be better and not settle as much, especially when Ayton is on him. Like, you got to go at him rather than try to make a jump shot over him, because Ayton's tall as hell, of course. But I do think there are some ways to just get AD some easier shots, which might require him to be the lone big guy, which then opens them up to offensive rebounding, which happened in this game. It could also open the floor up a little bit more, give LeBron some driving lanes. I remember Ayton blocked LeBron on one shot where the spacing was pretty crowded. There was one play, I think it was a LeBron Drummond pick and roll, which did result in a Drummond basket, but the paint was just so loaded, and it was surprising that Drummond could finish, and there's that. But we got to talk about Phoenix. I mean, Devin Booker was amazing today, and a lot of it was just that curl action, man. I mean, the handoff where he starts not necessarily on the baseline, but kind of around the elbow, and he just gets the handoff, whether it's from a big, whether it's from Chris Paul or another wing player. And the Lakers, the initial defense around that wasn't good enough, so it allowed him to comfortably operate in space. And then he went to the pull-up mid-range. He went to that big floater over AD. Of course, there were some isolations, like that one time where he just crossed up Alex Caruso. There was also one off-ball action that was more of like an elevator play that resulted in him just getting a 3. I think KCP was the one defending him there, and KCP was the guy on Booker a lot. There was one isolation in the first half on KCP. Booker was just amazing, and the thing was, they brought doubles. They brought extra attention to him, and he just made so many passes. There was that one to Mikal Bridges where AD was sleeping a little bit. That was a 3. There was at least one alley-oop to Ayton from Booker. There might have been more than one. There were a few Ayton alley-oops, of course, in this game. And, Booker was just as good as he possibly could have been. What could you do there? I mean, the thing with the Suns is they've got shooting everywhere, so it's difficult to just pick one guy to not defend. I mean, you could try it, and you could hope for a closeout as best you can, and that's probably what it's going to have to be. The other thing is, do you put LeBron on Devin Booker? I mean, 36, is that how old LeBron is now? Old LeBron, having to do everything he does on offense for you, and then have him defend Booker for stretches of the game. That might be what you have to do. The other idea is if you go to AD at center more, it could allow you to switch more often. AD did switch onto at least one screen that I remember late. So we'll have to see. But again, if you're going to switch everything, then it opens up like DeAndre Ayton being able to attack mismatches, which he did in this game. He also had some tip shots, and there were times where Drummond or Montrez got caught in no man's land, which led to some Ayton alley-oops. There was also that one Ayton play in transition that got Ayton a bucket. That was in the first quarter, or at least the first half. Speaking of the first half, the Lakers' transition defense was not good. I mean, the Suns didn't get any free throw attempts in the first half, which was something that I was thinking about going into the series. Like, are they just going to be able to get enough stuff at the rim? And they didn't at all in the first half, and it didn't matter because the Lakers' transition D was bad, and also just AD wasn't good enough in this game. The other thing as well was the Lakers, they missed a lot of threes. I mean, I think at one point they were like at below 30% from 3, and they might have finished with that for the game. They had a lot of good looks. I mean, Wesley Matthews had one open in the corner. Caruso had an open 3 that didn't go in when he relocated. I think Chris Paul was defending that one. They got an open KCP 3 off of a Schroeder, or no, it was a KCP Davis pick and roll at DeAndre Ayton, and then KCP relocated off that. Kuzma had a missed three off of a double team on an AD post up. LeBron, of course, was doing his normal, just getting it to everybody off of his drive and kicks. So they had some missed opportunities, but we got to remember this was a conversation last year with the Lakers. Is their shooting good enough? And they won the title, and I guess that made us all forget it. But there still should be that question of, do the Lakers have enough shooting? I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I said last year with this. They have guys who can make shots, but they don't have a Duncan Robinson or one of those types of guys, you know? They also missed free throws, of course, with LeBron. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, he's not a great free throw shooter. He's not even that good of one anymore. I mean, to me, it's his elbow just jets out way too much on his free throws. It's pretty basic, but that's just kind of how it is for him. So yeah, the big things to me are just maybe some more AD at the 5, and just going at Ayton more in the pick and roll. I mean, I know Ayton was great in this game. He definitely was. But you're making his job easier if you just have AD post up on him. I mean, Ayton's 7 feet tall, and he's strong. Like, he actually can guard AD in the post, kinda. But if you force him to move around more defensively, then I think you could have some more success. And then besides that, you know, AD, he had that one jumper over Crowder, and we just got to assume those are going to go in. I mean, we saw what he did against the Rockets, where they put all those wings on him, and he just time and time again made those mid-rangers, and he's got to do the same thing here. So I'm going to trust that he can do that. I'm going to trust that AD is going to be great the rest of the series, but for the Suns' sake, there are some things you can take away from defending AD. The main one being, you throw a lot of bodies at him, force him to make passes. It's not like you're doing it on LeBron, you know, and there were minutes in this game when LeBron was not out there and it was just AD. And I mean, I don't have the advanced stats in front of me. For all I know, their net rating in those minutes, their offensive rating, whatever, was good. But to me, it just felt like they didn't have a lot of answers. And it was like, it was hoping for a Schroeder pick and roll, but if LeBron's not out there, you can load up on AD more, so it gives you a little more luxury to switch that sort of an action. And so it's like, well, what are you going to do? As far as LeBron, I mentioned earlier that I thought he should have been a little more aggressive, and I do think he should have. I mean, he finished with 18 points. He probably settled for a couple threes, and you know, again, the big question might be, is the spacing too bad with Drummond and or Harrell with AD for LeBron to just do everything he wants to do around the basket? You know, it's a bit of a conversation. I'm not freaking out too much. We've seen LeBron-led teams down in many series. We've also seen them lose many game ones. I'm assuming they're going to bounce back in game 2, but Phoenix certainly established that this is going to be a series, which I hope. I didn't want to imply that I thought Phoenix wouldn't make this series competitive. I think looking back on my video, and you can feel free to just say, oh, well, the Suns won, so now you're going to say this, and you might be right. Phoenix is a good team, okay? They're a good team. They're very tough, and hopefully Chris Paul's shoulder is good to go, because if that's not, then, well, that could be the biggest bummer of the playoffs, really. So yeah, man, Lakers have some things to think about, and we'll see. Also, should be said, having a real crowd, that was awesome. That was the first time in a long time that a real crowd was accompanying an entertaining game. So that was a good time, and a good performance by the Suns.